Have you ever wondered why the woman who once adored you suddenly starts picking fights out of nowhere? Here's the shocking truth. It's not random. It's not accidental. Every woman does this. No exceptions. You might think your relationship is safe. You've moved past the wild energy of the dating phase, settled into routine, comfort, maybe even what feels like security. But then it hits. She changes. The woman who used to be sweet and affectionate now tests your patience, your confidence, your very identity. And you're left standing there, stunned, asking yourself, what happened? Did I do something wrong? Is she falling out of love with me? The reality is far more primal. At some point, whether it's months or years into the relationship, her subconscious begins searching for an answer to one brutal question. Are you truly the strong man she believed you were? Or are you just another weak man pretending she doesn't plan this? She doesn't even realize she's doing it. But once that instinct kicks in, the testing begins. And here's where most men fail. They fold under pressure. They try to fix everything with logic, or they sacrifice their own boundaries just to keep her happy. Every time they bend, they lose another piece of her respect until she no longer sees them as a man worth following. But you don't have to be that man. Because if you stay with me until the end, I'll reveal why these tests happen, how most men unknowingly destroy themselves, and how you can rise above the cycle and keep her attraction for life. So let's cut right to it. Why doesn't she start testing you on day one? Why does it always seem to happen later? Months, maybe years into the relationship, right when you thought you were finally safe. Here's the answer, and it stings in the beginning. You were a mystery, and mystery is magnetic. She didn't fully know you yet. You had your own life, your own priorities, your own habits, your own frame. You were unpredictable, and unpredictability is intoxicating. Think back. In those early days, she couldn't quite figure you out. You had other things going on besides her. She had to work for your time. She had to wonder what you were thinking, what you were doing, whether you'd text her back right away or not. That edge, that independence, was the very thing that drew her in. But here's what happens. Over time, you start to relax. You get comfortable. You start prioritizing the relationship above everything else. You skip the gym to make her happy. You cancel plans with your friends because she complained. You spend less time on your passions, your goals, your mission, because you think giving her more attention equals love. Slowly but surely, you stop being that mysterious, magnetic man she first fell for, and instead, you become predictable. Predictability is where the danger starts, because when you become predictable, her subconscious goes on alert. It's not a conscious thought. She doesn't sit there plotting, but something deep inside her starts whispering. Wait a second. Is this man still who I thought he was? Is he still strong? Still a leader? Or has he become another guy who's lost himself in the relationship? And that's the exact moment when the testing begins. At first, it's subtle. A little jab here, a sarcastic remark there. She might question a choice you made, not because it mattered, but because she wants to see how you react. She asks, "Why did you choose that?" Not because she cares about the choice, but because she's watching. Will you flinch? Will you doubt yourself? It's not a question, it's a scan. Every response you give is data. And in her mind, the algorithm is simple, strong, or weak. She might push against a boundary, come home later than she said she would, flirt a little too much at a party, roll her eyes at something you said in front of friends. None of these things are huge by themselves, but each one is a probe, a subconscious experiment. She wants to see if you'll stand firm or fold, if you hold your ground. Her subconscious relaxes. She breathes easier. She thinks, yes, this man is still strong. He still has his edge. He still leads. But if you bend, if you back down, compromise your values, avoid conflict just to keep the peace, her subconscious makes a note. Weak, weak, weak. And here's the brutal part. Once her subconscious files you under weak, it's almost impossible to change that classification. Because to her, men fall into only two categories: strong or weak, dominant or submissive, leaders or followers. There is no middle ground. No, he's strong sometimes, but soft other times. You're either one or the other. And once her mind sorts you into the weaker category, every single interaction afterward gets filtered through that lens. Even if you try to fight back later, she'll assume it's an act. This is why the timing of the tests matters so much. She doesn't test you heavily in the beginning because, back then, you had frame, you had independence, you had options. She already saw you as strong. But once you give it up, once you trade your edge for comfort and safety, her subconscious panics. It feels like bait and switch. She fell for a strong man, but now she's living with someone who bends, someone she can control. And the testing begins not because she's evil, not because she's trying to sabotage you, but because her instincts demand verification. This is hardwired into her biology. Thousands of years of evolution carved it into her DNA. Back then, survival depended on choosing a strong mate. Weak men meant danger. Weak men meant starvation, death, vulnerability for her and her children. So women developed a subconscious radar, a system of constant checking, probing, testing, making sure the man beside them was still strong enough to protect and lead. That programming hasn't gone away. The stakes aren't life and death anymore, but the instinct remains. This is why so many men feel blindsided. They think everything is fine. They think routine and comfort equals stability. But what they don't realize is that routine kills attraction. Comfort kills respect. Safety breeds testing. And here's the cruel twist. The very thing society tells you to do, make her your priority. Sacrifice for love. Show her how much you care, are the exact things that trigger her subconscious to test you harder. The more you orbit around her, the more she suspects weakness. The more you give up yourself for her, the more she wonders if you were ever strong in the first place. So when the tests begin, most men don't even see them for what they are. They think they're just arguments. They think it's just stress. They think she's being emotional. No, it's deeper. It's primal. It's her subconscious asking, "Are you still the man I thought you were, or was I fooled?" And if you don't recognize that question for what it is, you've already lost the game. Once her subconscious flips that switch, the testing begins. And make no mistake, it's not random. It's not mood swings. It's not her just being emotional. It's primal. It's biological. It's her subconscious doing one thing, verifying whether the man in front of her is truly strong or just another weak pretender. But here's the kicker, she doesn't even realize she's doing it. She doesn't wake up and say, "Today, I'm going to test my man." No, it's automatic. It's instinct. And that's why so many men miss it. So how do these tests show up? At first, they're small. She questions a decision you made, just to see how firm you stand. She makes a sarcastic comment to see if you crumble. She withholds affection for a night, just to see if you'll beg for it. She pushes a boundary, maybe shows up late without calling, maybe flirts just a little too much at a party. These aren't accidents. These are probes. Her subconscious is scanning. Is this man solid, or is he about to fold? And here's the brutal truth. Most men fold. The first common failure. Logic. Here's the brutal reality. A man who over-explains is already on trial. If you need her to believe in you, it means you've stopped believing in yourself. She throws drama at him, and he tries to solve it with explanations. She gets emotional, and he talks in circles trying to calm her down. He thinks if he just says the right words, she'll stop being upset. But her drama isn't the issue. The test isn't about logic. The real question is simple. Will he hold his frame, or will he step into mine? The second failure, fear. Fear of conflict, fear of her anger, fear of losing her. So he apologizes for things that aren't his fault. He compromises his boundaries. He gives in just to keep the peace. He thinks he's being mature, but every time he bends, he loses another piece of her respect. To her subconscious, fear equals weakness. The third failure, overcompensation. He panics. He buys gifts. He showers her with affection. He performs for her approval. Look how much I love you. Look how much I care. Please be happy. But the harder he tries, the weaker he looks. It's like bleeding in shark-infested waters. The more he chases, the more desperate he smells, and the more her subconscious pushes back. Then there's the therapy trap. He drags her to couples counseling. He spills his heart out, cries in front of her, shares his deepest fears, thinking vulnerability will make her love him again. And in the short term, maybe she nods and says she appreciates it. But deep down, her subconscious recoils. Attraction dies when she sees her man collapse into emotional weakness. She may thank him with words, but inside, she feels disgust. And if that wasn't bad enough, some men make it worse by calling for backup. They run to her family, to their family, to mutual friends. They think social pressure will keep her in line. But all it does is confirm what her subconscious already suspects. He can't even handle his own woman without help. And to her, that's the ultimate display of weakness. I've seen this cycle ruin men again and again. They try logic, they try fear, they try gifts, they try therapy, they try involving others, and every path leads to the same place, failure. Because none of those things address the real issue. The test was never about dishes in the sink. It was never about being late. It was never about tone of voice. Those were smoke screens. The real question underneath every fight, every silence, every jab was always the same. Is this man strong enough to stand his ground? Or is he weak enough to crumble? And if you don't see that, you're already losing. Now here's where it gets dangerous. Each time you fail, each time you fold, the testing doesn't stop. It intensifies. Because her subconscious now smells weakness, and weakness demands confirmation. It's like poking at a fence. You push harder until you know if it's solid or ready to collapse. And if she senses collapse, the respect she once had for you disintegrates. That's why so many men wake up one day and can't recognize their own relationship. The woman who once adored them now seems impossible to please. Every day is another fight. Every week, another argument. They think she's changed. They think love faded. No. What really happened is simple. She tested, and he failed. And once the failures pile up, the cycle of destruction begins. I've seen this cycle destroy men who once looked unstoppable. And what's terrifying is how predictable it always is. Let me paint the picture for you. There was a colleague of mine, sharp guy, in great shape, social, confident. First year of marriage, he was still himself. He hit the gym 5 days a week. He had weekly nights out with his friends. He played basketball on Sundays. His wife would occasionally push back. "You care more about the gym than me," she'd say. Or, "Your friends matter more than our marriage." But he handled it calmly. He didn't argue. He didn't fold. He said, "I need this for my well-being." And that was that. But then the complaints grew louder. Instead of holding his ground, he started compromising. 5 gym sessions became 3, then 2, then only when she's busy. Nights with his friends turned into rare events. Within 2 years, he had gained 30 pounds, lost his social circle, and worse, lost his spark. And his wife. She didn't respect him more for sacrificing. She respected him less. She looked at him and saw a man who had surrendered his frame. And in her subconscious, the classification changed strong, weak. And once that shift happens, attraction dies. And here's the tragedy. He thought he was proving love. But to her, every sacrifice was proof of weakness. She didn't lose attraction because he gained weight. She lost attraction because he lost himself. Another friend of mine was even more dramatic. A successful businessman, confident in boardrooms, respected in his field, but at home, completely powerless. His wife would pick fights out of thin air. She'd threaten to leave, even pack her bags. And every time, he panicked. He begged. He bought flowers, jewelry, vacations. He promised he'd change. She always came back, but not because she loved him more. She came back because the test wasn't complete. She wanted to see how much control she really had. The cycle became brutal. She provoked. He surrendered. She lost more respect. She pulled away again. He chased harder. Each loop drained him of confidence, stripped him of authority, hollowed him out. Within 3 years, he was a shell. Panic attacks, constant anxiety, afraid to make decisions without her approval. The man who once commanded boardrooms couldn't even pick a Netflix show without asking her first. He wasn't just losing her, he was losing his mind. Stopped sleeping, stopped eating right, started therapy not for growth, but just to survive her moods. And the cruel irony, the more he bent to keep her, the closer she drifted toward another man, and the ending predictable. She left him anyway. And not for someone richer or smarter. She left him for her personal trainer, a man who made a fraction of his income but who carried one thing: my friend had lost frame. The trainer didn't care if she was upset. He didn't rearrange his life for her. He didn't seek her approval. And her subconscious responded to that strength, even if, logically, she knew she was leaving the better man on paper. This is the nightmare cycle. It always looks like this, we provokes. He gives in. She loses respect. She distances herself. He panics and chases. She returns, not out of love, but because the test isn't finished. Then the loop repeats, each time making him weaker, each time making her colder, until there's nothing left but resentment and contempt. And here's the darkest part. Once she categorizes you as weak, almost nothing can pull you back. You can try to change. You can try to grow. But her subconscious has already stamped you with that label. And every new behavior you try setting boundaries, saying no, standing firm, she'll test harder. Not to believe you, to prove to herself that your strength is fake, that you're still the same weak man underneath. I've seen men try everything. Once they realize they're losing her, they hit the gym again. They start acting more assertive. They read books on communication, but because she saw them beg, cry, and break in the past, every move looks like an act, and her respect never comes back. This is why so many relationships end the same way. A woman walks out on a man who gave her everything, and he's left shattered, asking, why wasn't I enough? Why did she leave me when I sacrificed so much? He never realized that the sacrifice was the problem, that by failing the tests, by proving weakness again and again, he killed her attraction with his own hands. That's the trap. That's the loop. That's the death spiral most men never escape. So what's the way out? How do you escape the death spiral and flip the script? Here's the first truth you need to swallow. You don't win back respect by chasing it. You don't rebuild attraction by begging, explaining, or proving yourself. You don't pass her tests by performing for her approval. Respect doesn't come from what you do for her. It comes from who you are. That means your only path forward is to reclaim your frame. Frame is your foundation. It's your internal compass. It's the clear line between what you will accept and what you won't. And when you hold that frame calmly, consistently, unapologetically, everything changes. So let's break it down. When she throws drama at you, the weak man reacts. He explains, he argues, he chases. But the man with frame doesn't play that game. He doesn't get dragged into her emotional storm. He doesn't raise his voice. He doesn't scramble to prove himself. Instead, he stands still. He looks her in the eye and says, "When you're ready to talk like an adult, I'll listen. Until then, I've got things to do." And then he actually leaves the room. He actually goes and lives his life. That calm, unshakable presence sends a message deeper than words. I am solid. You can't shake me. When she threatens to leave, the weak man panics. He pleads, "Please don't go. I'll change. I'll do whatever you want." And in that moment, she knows she has complete control. But the man with frame, he simply says, "That's your choice. I'm not going to beg anyone to stay with me." And he means it. He's not bluffing. He's not testing her back. He is genuinely willing to walk away rather than lose himself. That's power. That's respect. When she disrespects you, whether it's mocking you in front of friends, rolling her eyes at your opinion, or dismissing your boundaries, the weak man laughs it off, pretending it's no big deal. Or worse, he argues endlessly, trying to prove why she should respect him. Both are failures. The man with frame does something simple and powerful. He enforces consequences. She mocks him in public. He gets up and leaves. She ignores his plans. He makes his own. She withholds affection. He doesn't beg. He simply stops pouring attention into a woman who isn't showing up for him. Not as punishment, not with anger, but as a natural cause and effect. That's strength. And here's where most men get it wrong. They think holding frame means being cold, distant, unemotional. They try to act like robots, never showing affection, never opening up. They think strength means shutting down. But that's not strength. That's fear disguised as control. Real strength is different. Real strength is being able to feel everything: love, anger, joy, pain, and still choose your response from a place of power. Let me give you an example. A client of mine was stuck in a toxic loop with his wife. She would blow up over the smallest things. He tried everything, apologizing, reasoning, even crying to show her how much he cared. Nothing worked. She only lost more respect. Finally, he made one change. When she exploded, he stopped reacting. He didn't yell. He didn't explain. He didn't grovel. He simply said, "I'm going for a walk. We can talk when you're calm." And then he left. No anger, no games, just calm indifference. And you know what happened? The fight stopped. She softened. She started treating him like the man she fell for again. Not because of what he said, but because of the strength she felt in his presence. This is the paradox of frame. The moment you stop needing her validation, the moment you stop chasing her approval, is the moment she starts chasing yours. When you don't need her, she needs you. When you're not afraid to lose her, she becomes afraid to lose you. That's not manipulation, it's biology. Women are wired to respect strength. And strength isn't about controlling her, it's about controlling yourself. But let's be crystal clear, you can't fake this. You can't act like you don't care while secretly dying inside. You can't pretend to be strong while still craving her approval. Because her subconscious is like a radar for weakness, she'll pick it up instantly. Real strength can't be faked. It must be built. And that's the real work. Not memorizing lines, not playing games, but doing the deep work on yourself until you become whole. Until you're a man who loves deeply, but not desperately. Until you're a man who can give affection without needing it back. Until you're a man whose happiness doesn't depend on a woman, but who still chooses to share it with her. That's the man who passes the tests without even noticing them. That's the man who doesn't lose respect because he never gives it up in the first place. Here's the reality you can't ignore if you've already spent years failing these tests. It may be too late for your current relationship. Once a woman has filed you away as weak in her subconscious, that image sticks. She saw you beg. She saw you break. She saw you sacrifice your integrity for her approval. That memory never fades. You can change. You can grow. You can even become genuinely strong. But to her subconscious, you'll always be the man who failed. That's why this lesson is so urgent. You can't wait until it's too late. You can't wait until she's already lost all respect. Because when that respect is gone, attraction dies with it. The relationship may continue in name, but in reality, it's already over. But if you learn this now, everything shifts. When you stand firm, when you protect your boundaries, when you live from wholeness instead of neediness, you change the dynamic completely. Tests no longer control you. They become small bumps, not mountains. She may still challenge you from time to time, but each time you pass, her respect grows deeper, and respect is the root of desire. The truth is simple. Women don't test to destroy you. They test because deep down, they want to believe you are strong. They want to know they can lean on you. They want to feel safe in your presence. The tests are not about punishment. They are about confirmation. So the question is not if the tests will come. They will. The only question is, will you collapse and prove her fears right? Or will you rise and prove her instincts correct? Don't be the man who wakes up one day, broken, asking what went wrong. Be the man who never loses his frame. Because when you hold your ground, when you stay whole, when you lead with strength, she doesn't just stay with you. She invests in you. She respects you. She desires you. And that's the kind of man she never wants to lose. Thank you for watching. If this message hit you, don't just scroll away. Subscribe, dive deeper into our content, and start building the mindset that puts you back in control. Drop a comment below. What's the biggest struggle you want us to break down next? Let's build a brotherhood of men who rise above confusion and reclaim their power. See you in the next video.